Nobody saw her coming. Not the executives in their Manhattan towers, not the marketing teams mapping out the next decade of tennis superstars, and certainly not the sponsors who had already decided which faces would sell their products. But Eala wasn't asking for permission. She was about to force an entire industry to confront a truth it had been ignoring for generations. This isn't just another underdog story. This is about power, money, and the moment when a sport realized it had been leaving billions on the table while looking in all the wrong places. Born in Manila to a country where tennis courts are luxuries and basketball reigns supreme, Eala grew up in a world that offered her nothing. The Philippines had never crowned a Grand Slam singles champion. The infrastructure that European and American players inherit as birthright simply didn't exist. There were no elite academies on every corner, no corporate sponsors hunting for 12-year-old prodigies, no media machine building mythology before the first professional match. What Eala did have was hunger. She earned her place at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain, training alongside Europe's elite while carrying the weight of an entire nation's hopes. When she captured the 2022 US Open Junior title, it should have been a seismic moment. The way she closed out matches under crushing pressure, the composure that separated champions from everyone else, it was all there. But the tennis world barely blinked. The machine that decides who gets spotlight and who gets forgotten had already made its choice, and Eala wasn't part of the plan. The sponsors kept chasing their formula. Tall, powerful, Instagram-ready. Preferably American. Preferably fitting a mold that hadn't changed in 30 years. The playbook was simple. Find a young player who checks the right boxes, build the brand before the trophies arrive, watch the profits roll in. Safe. Predictable. Profitable. Eala was petite, Southeast Asian, representing a market that tennis executives discussed in abstract terms if they discussed it at all. The assessment was clinical. Solid professional ceiling, maybe top 50, respectable but not transformative. Not someone who moves needles or shifts paradigms. While they looked away, something was building that none of them understood. Eala's matches were drawing viewership numbers from the Philippines that competed with prime-time television. Her name was trending not just in Manila but across Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam. An entire region, over 600 million people, was discovering that someone who looked like them, who represented them, could compete at the highest level. The assumption that Asian fans would simply follow whoever was winning, that representation didn't matter, was about to be shattered. Then came the match that rewrote the rules. It was a second-round match at a WTA 500 event. Nothing about it suggested importance. Eala was ranked outside the top 100, facing a former top 20 player expected to cruise through in straight sets. The match was scheduled on an outer court with no primetime slot, no major US broadcast coverage. Just another early-round contest that would be forgotten by dinner. But Eala took the first set in a tiebreak. Then she broke serve early in the second. As she fought off break points and unleashed winners that left her opponent stunned, something unprecedented was happening thousands of miles away. In Manila, bars overflowed. Viewing parties erupted into celebrations. The official WTA stream, which typically attracted a few thousand viewers for early rounds, suddenly had over 200,000 people watching live. The comment section became a blur of Tagalog, English, and Filipino flags. This wasn't just a tennis match anymore. When Eala closed it out in straight sets, the celebration was understated, a clenched fist, quiet determination. But in that instant, she transcended sport. Within hours, the highlights were trending globally. TikTok clips went viral. Filipino celebrities who had never acknowledged tennis were posting tributes. The presidential office released a statement. This was national identity crystallized in a 2-hour match. In the United States, in the offices where the world's biggest sports marketing decisions are made, panic set in. Not the loud kind. The quiet, expensive kind. Who is this athlete? Why are Southeast Asian viewership numbers exceeding what we generate for top 10 players? How did we miss this? Marketing executives started pulling data they should have been analyzing for years. Social media teams scrambled to understand engagement rates that defied their models. Brand managers discovered demographic reports they had commissioned and ignored. The numbers were staggering. The Philippines alone, over 100 million people. Southeast Asia as a region, over 600 million. Tennis viewership had been climbing steadily, But no one had bothered to build a star who could truly connect with that audience. Until now. One major athletic apparel brand, sources suggest it was a company whose swoosh logo is globally recognized, called an emergency meeting. The question on the table was brutally simple. How did we miss this? Because Eala wasn't just generating attention. She was generating the kind of attention that moves product, builds brand loyalty, and opens entire markets. The kind of attention that built empires with Serena Williams. The kind that made Naomi Osaka one of the highest-paid athletes on Earth. And they had completely ignored her. Within 72 hours, the scramble began. Industry insiders reported that at least 3 major brands had contacted Eala's management team. Not with formal offers yet, just inquiries, testing the waters, feeling out the situation. Nike, which had famously passed on Eala 2 years earlier, was suddenly reconsidering. Wilson wanted to expand their racket partnership. Gatorade, Rolex, even luxury brands that rarely touch tennis unless you're top 5, all of them were circling. Leaked internal communications, never officially confirmed but widely reported, revealed the desperation behind closed doors. Marketing teams were being asked to justify why they hadn't identified Eala sooner. Data analysts were projecting her market value across Southeast Asia. Legal teams were reviewing how to structure contracts that could move fast. One alleged email from a senior marketing director captured the mood perfectly. "We cannot afford to be late on this again." The reference was unmistakable. Naomi Osaka. When Osaka won the 2018 US Open, major sponsors were slow to recognize what they had: a biracial, bilingual superstar who could dominate American and Japanese markets simultaneously. By the time they moved, her price had skyrocketed. The industry had learned that lesson painfully, and they were terrified of repeating it. But Eala's team wasn't interested in a bidding war. They wanted something more substantial than a cash grab. They wanted partnership that respected her identity, her story, her connection to the Philippines. They didn't want her to become a diversity checkbox. They wanted her to be the face of something authentic and lasting. That's when the tension exploded. On social media, fans started asking uncomfortable questions. Why now? Why didn't these brands care when she was winning junior titles with no support? Why didn't they care when she was grinding through qualifying rounds? The phrase, diversity play, appeared everywhere. Critics accused sponsors of opportunism, of jumping on a trend without genuine investment. Some pointed out that Eala's sudden visibility came only after she proved she could generate revenue, that her worth was measured in viewership numbers, not talent or potential. Others defended the brands. This is how business works, they argued. Sponsors invest where there's return. Eala's success created opportunity. That's not exploitation. That's capitalism. The debate raged, and through it all, Eala stayed silent. But her team didn't. The statement they released was carefully worded but unmistakable in its message. Alex has always been focused on her game, not on publicity. We're grateful for the support she's receiving, but we're also mindful of partnerships that align with her values and her community. This isn't about capitalizing on a moment. It's about building something sustainable. It was a shot across the bow. A reminder that Eala's team understood the game being played. They knew sponsors weren't just interested in her, they were interested in the market she represented. And they weren't going to let her be used. The backlash intensified. Fans felt protective. They saw Eala as a symbol of underrepresented athletes finally getting recognition. They didn't want her story commodified or reduced to a marketing strategy. Industry professionals countered that this reaction was naive. Sports is business, always has been. If Eala's rise opens doors for other Southeast Asian players, if it forces investment in ignored markets, isn't that progress? A former top 10 player weighed in, "I think it's great that Alex is getting attention, but let's be honest. If she looked different, if she came from a different country, she would have had these deals years ago." The fact that sponsors are only interested now says everything you need to know about this sport. The quote went viral. It was framed as solidarity, but it reignited the most uncomfortable truth. Tennis has always had a diversity problem, and throwing money at one breakthrough player doesn't fix systemic issues. Privately, sources close to Eala said she was exhausted by the noise. She didn't want to be a symbol or a case study. She just wanted to play tennis. But the world wasn't letting her because her success had exposed a fault line in the industry, and everyone was being forced to pick a side. While debates raged online, something quieter but more significant was happening on the ground. Tennis clubs in the Philippines reported record enrollment. Kids who had never touched a racket were signing up for lessons. Eala's matches were being broadcast in schools. Her face appeared on billboards. But it wasn't just the Philippines. Across Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, throughout Southeast Asia, tennis was suddenly visible in a way it had never been before. Sponsors were finally examining data they'd ignored for years. The Asia-Pacific region represents one of the fastest-growing sports markets globally. Badminton and table tennis have always dominated, but tennis has been gaining ground. The problem was that Western brands never bothered building stars who could genuinely connect with that audience. They assumed Asian fans would simply follow winners. They didn't think representation mattered. Eala proved them catastrophically wrong. Comparisons to Naomi Osaka were inevitable. Osaka's impact on Japanese tennis was seismic. She didn't just inspire a generation, she fundamentally transformed how the sport was marketed in Japan. Sponsors learned that visibility matters.